Welcome to the Data Defense in the Age of AI, Securing LLMs and Agentic Applications session. My name's Scott Clinton. I co-chair the GenAI Security Project. I've been in the data analytics and security space for over 20 years.
Hello, my name is Emanuel Glam Jr. I serve as a data security initiative lead on the OWASP GenAI Security Project for over 2 years now. My background is in business administration with over 20 years and with the last 15 in the cybersecurity industry. And the past 5 years, very dedicated into the AI space, where I went over to have some certifications and explore within red teaming and other disciplines in the field.
And today, Emmanuel and I are going to take us through talking about our new reality that we have with data security and what AI has brought to us. I know often when we're talking about AI, a lot of the focus goes into like jailbreaks, hallucinations, traditional security areas. But in fact, data is a much larger piece of the puzzle. You think people, we would think about that because obviously this is an evolution of machine learning, which is data is central to, just as AI data is central to. So bad data in, bad data out. Some of those same old maxims kind of apply in this case. But it's even a little bit more challenging because it's not just about the data analytics challenges we used to have, but now we're actually using AI to generate more content, which means the ability to kind of create content that may or may not be well designed for or secured areas to be able to generate query databases, be able to generate new content, be able to interact. We're really reaching a point where we've got a lot of autonomy with these systems, especially as things like agents become part of it. So really what that means for all of us is that the security tools that we used to use to track data, to categorize the data, really aren't really designed for what we need to do today. They don't see what AI systems are doing, especially as we start advancing into agents that are interacting autonomously. So we have to really look at protecting data. It takes a whole new approach and really kind of extend that visibility and control to everywhere where AI is touching information, which is a huge change. So for that, what that means, it's really redefining that data security landscape. A lot of what we've moved to today, DSPM has been very much a central part of how we started to orchestrate and be able to monitor data security. But AI disrupts those traditional pillars that DSPM has put in place and really focuses on, provides a whole new set of challenges for data security. DSPM traditionally focuses on data at rest, but now we have a whole new situation where we got context around data, we've got memory that AI systems are using, and we're seeing already that, as I said, 68% of AI security incidents involve data leaving its governance boundary. So these are new APIs, new models, new tools, new kinds of interaction that we're finding data ending up well outside our traditional governance areas. What that introduces is some new data exposure areas. These include prompt injection or prompt ingress, untrusted inputs. We've heard a lot about prompt injection, but it's also very much a data-centric issue, whether we have prompts that are transparent in PDFs, maybe white text on PDF backgrounds that cannot be seen. Still, the ability to ingress and to process these opens up new exploit risks for data and infiltration possibilities. We also are continuing to deal with, as data is central to all of our RAG architectures and our models, the same issues around poison data become an issue. Model memory is something that's completely new. Now that each of our models are retaining ideas, retaining memory of what they've done, especially as we start to get into agents, which start to retain memory within just the agents themselves. We now have situations where PII and data vectors can be very easily transferred from one to the other. So model memory becomes a new issue. Agentic tool chains, one of the areas we talk about is over permissioning or over permissiveness of these agents. And these are creating whole new tool chains from new APIs that we'll talk about in a minute, and also to new kind of data structures that are being centrally part of these new types of applications. And lastly, we have new issues around generated output. So the training data that's being used, as we know, not always do we understand what that training data is or where that's come from. A lot of what we're doing now is inferring from that training data, which even when we're doing synthetic content creation, that can actually reveal training data, intellectual property, and other issues like PII data. So this creates a whole new area of exposure. As I mentioned, agentic AI is also then compounding this. A couple of key areas to keep an eye on is cross-agent memory bleed. So as agents are interacting, the memory between those agents, passing data between tasks, opens up another vector of concern. As I mentioned earlier, we're giving more and more permissions to these agents. So even though we give them more permission, they're also giving them more autonomy. And that autonomy can also extend and expand, which creates new opportunities for concern. As we've talked about, there's new APIs, MCP, ACP for accessing external systems, whether we're talking about A2A for interaction between agents. These new protocols have new data sets. When MCP was first rolled out, it really didn't have strong identity components to it, or strong security or API security components, which opened up opportunities for traditional API type of hacking and risks to data exfiltration. We also are dealing with issues around forged identity as part of that overall protocol hijack, where people can start to pretend agents are other agents, and this becomes a bigger issue as far as where the data is coming from and the data risks. We certainly have hallucinations we've talked about systems hallucinating, and that systematic data can be misidentified, so that what the system thinks is safe output is actually not. And then finally, when we're looking at classifying data, while we spend a lot of time on data classification to help us protect against things like data exfiltration, PII, and IP leakage, not always are these systems necessarily recognizing that, especially at the area of inference, where it's taking from what has been stored in the model training and kind of taking it to the next level. Data classification is really not considered at that point. We do a lot of data classification when we're starting to build out or train models, but not at the inference level, which opens up additional challenges with agentic. So what this really means is we've got new real-world data governance gaps. So there's no unified data inventory for AI accessible sources. We've leveraged DLP for a long time as a way to protect against data leakage, but things like model logs are not part of those DLP pipelines today. So they're not part of some of the defenses that we're used to having. We continue to see, just like we saw with Shadow IT, we're seeing Shadow AI deployments. And these are individuals taking advantage of the commercial tools that are out there, bringing them into your corporate environments, uploading files and data. We have some very early examples from early days of Samsung when people uploaded designs. If you think back to that whole exploit, where engineers thought, hey, it'd be a great idea for the tool to kind of help me be able to kind of work out some of these design characteristics. In working through those designs, they happened to upload the original IP, and that got incorporated into the training data for a public model, and then their information was everywhere. So this is a big challenge as organizations think about how do they do controls. And really, the idea that some organizations have taken to completely shut down use of AI systems really doesn't help. We've gone through this before. One of the big challenges, people just take their work home and do it at home. So it needs to be a very proactive way in how we start to address these, but this is a huge governance gap. And then lastly is a lack of a policy enforcement on the AI orchestration frameworks. While organizations continue to struggle with just data policy enforcement, this introduces a whole new set of challenges that need to be incorporated into your current plans around it. And we've seen these translate into real exploits in the wild. I've just captured 4 here that really talk about how this boundary issue between trusted and untrusted sources really are breakdowns in governance and in data management. So one of the things that we look at here is we can see that we've got each one of these are well-known leaks. When you think about the Echo leak from Copilot, that's one that we've been talking about several times. You've probably heard about it in maybe some of the other sessions as well. This idea of cross-content prompt injection, which I mentioned earlier, where we've got content that is being modified to inject dangerous prompts into your prompt system. Also, this is a situation where you start to export or include internal document exposure, like with the Samsung example. Also, we have just simply bugs that create prompt response leakage issues. In the state of the Meta AI IDOR bug, we really looked at there was a broken authorization and data scope verification, which resulted in that. So these are translating into real world risks and scenarios that are materializing as people are continuing to deliver more deployments of generative AI systems. And this is having some financial impact. So while these are, when we look at this data, we can see that across multiple sectors, these data breaches are significantly larger than your traditional data breach. It's almost 1.5 to 2.5 times larger. IBM's cost of data breach report gives you a good idea of what traditional solutions are. But as we look at what the AI is doing to our financial impacts, it's driving up the risk and it's driving up the cost, which needs to become something we put under control. And as I mentioned, really, we need to start looking at a new approach because things like DSPM really fall short. And it falls short in a couple of key areas. Number one, it's really designed for data at rest, not really data in motion, data in context. These are creating issues. So, for example, we have on the traditional DPM focus, it's really all about database and file discovery. But we do have issues on the AI side where that semantic data, the embeddings, the memory components are just not incorporated into the current DSPM approach and frameworks. Sensitive data labels, static data labels are certainly part of our DSPM focus traditionally. Now we're addressing this dynamic capabilities and this context that is happening at inference time that is creating more and more challenges. DLP on endpoints is typically how we've been enforcing this, but LL prompt linkage can easily bypass DLP solutions. And then there's need to continue to look at continuous inference and policy enhancements requirements. As you continue to run applications, you can't just schedule an audit as you would do under a DSPM program. Let's go schedule an audit for January. Let's go schedule an audit for next week. This is a continuous situation that you need to be monitoring this stuff in real time. So that puts DSPM at a real disadvantage in being able to keep up with these applications and the security risk associated with them. One of the things that we've been doing as a project is taking the opportunity to leverage our experience and the community's experience around multiple areas. One advantage we have is being able to unify insights to get a more complete picture of data guidance and data governance. For example, we can connect the work that's being done as part of our top 10 for LLM solutions, connect that with our governance and security working group outputs. There's a huge amount of work that's been around Agentic. And of course, Emanuel will talk about our data security initiative. But together, we're able to bring these research components, best practices, and guidance together to provide a much more complete data security guidance output. Again, this is all being developed by practitioners for practitioners. So we've been focusing on providing those resources that can help immediately and then focus on iterating quickly. And what we're doing today is to continue to drive more guidance around data security. And I'll have Emanuel talk a little bit about what we're doing on the data security front specifically.
Thanks, Scott, for the foundation that you created. You laid out the risks very beautifully. So here, as you see on the screen, is the white paper that we launched in February of this year, and it outlines some of the things that Scott has talked to us. If we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So one before, Scott, please. So now the real shift here is how data behaves, as you laid out for us here. The traditional data dealt with more in a static manner. It was started as data at rest in the beginning, but then how we store databases, how we encrypt, how we classify, what is our provenance of the data that we have. But as mentioned, GenAI, especially the agentic systems, data no longer is static. It's alive. It's moving. It's constantly changing, and it flows through reasoning, memory, vector databases, and also autonomous tool invocation. So data will play out a real role there. And how then we deal with the data in motion in memory, and also with the new developments in the field, how also data is dealt with in reasoning as well. So data is generated, transformed, and recontextualized by AI itself. So that's something that it's really hard for us to keep up. It has a tremendous amount of work to be done to be able to catch up on how the technology is evolving. So our goal is not just to secure where the data is with the initiative. It's like as we figure these things out together, because there's no one size fits all. We know different industries and organizations will deal with data differently because of the nature of what they do. So now we are seeing a shift of moving from visibility to control, and then from control to trust, right? So how much control do we have is the trust we offer to the stakeholders. So that's exactly where the data security initiative is trying to pick up. It's just like, specifically when it comes to data security, what can you do? What can we do? What are the questions we need to ask for practitioners? So within the data security initiative, we're not trying to reinvent cybersecurity. We are trying to just adapt to the practices using large language models, generative AI applications in general, and most recently agentic architectures as well. So the initiative at data security, we have two main ideas, I would say. The first one is the data security must evolve with AI. So as AI is evolving, the way we deal with data security also needs to evolve with the technology. We need to cover training data, retrieval, embeddings, interference, and also memory. And then secondly, everything we propose at the initiative, one very important aim that I have as the lead is how can we share information with practitioners, developers, CISOs, and executives in a way that is practical and can be implemented. So that's what we try to do. Um, in the output of our work, it was the white paper. So it began firstly with some of the mapping that we tried to do when we started with the first top 10, and then we did it again with the top 10 in 2025. We try mapping to the different frameworks that we have available, just to try to make sure we incorporate frameworks that can be used for professionals. Um, so when it comes to that, we have some core pillars that we try to cover. The first one, defending depth for AI data. So we go beyond encryption. It's also about provenance, tamper-proof auditability as well. And even I would risk to say here, we need to start the conversation around post-quantum cryptography, because when organizations start seeing quantum, are we going to wait for that, or should we start discussing these topics right now? I would say we should start throwing that into the mix. Zero trust for LLM pipelines. So every input, every output, every agent action must be verified and logged. So we are expecting zero trust from network to data reasoning. The life cycle security. This means each phase of the data life cycle: ingestion, training, interference, and sharing. Each has its own threat model, right? So how are those sets put into place in each phase of the life cycle? Which brings us to the proactive governance. So it means risk register, ethics oversight, continuous auditing. So governance also is no longer a static policy, right? So as you well mentioned, it's like it's not that I can schedule something and it will do its thing. Now it's dynamic. It needs to be adaptive, and so these pillars can have a repeatable structure to help organizations secure the data into their AIs. So, and nowhere this is more urgent than the rise of the agentic AI. So, as we see on John's group, so the activity there is really great, because of the need that everyone can see when it comes to agents. So for the change that we can see from the data at rest and to uh, the data in motion and reasoning that we see. So as I mentioned before, what this entails on this slide is to show that we have to change, right? So as the data and how the data behaves into all of the environments are changing, we also will need to work towards visibility, control, and control to trust. Then next slide, please, Scott. So one last thing I also want to mention when it comes to agentic data security. I think there's one of the slides that it's titled Agentic Data Security. Okay, deliverables that you can use. So our initiative has the white paper which we generated beginning of February. Um, it was a bunch of experts that came together, so we're able to map some defense in depth for AI data, some controls and secure by design approaches for AI data ecosystems into the deployment as well. Um, so we also mentioned some of the tools that could be used. So it was very, very practical. So I was very happy with the way the white paper came out, because anyone could take that document and start using right away. And another deliverable we have within the initiative is the mapping. So we mapped some of the top 10, and we plan to do the same with the Agentic top 10 that is coming up to the different frameworks we have available, such as NIST, ISO, MITRE Atlas, and syscontrols. I think those are the most prominent ones. And so to help align with assurance, compliance, and data integrity. I want to go back also to how agentic data security is different from what we see. So systems that reason, plan, act, and are transforming the attack surface. So the agents, they store memory, invoke external tools, and exchange data between contexts. That's what you mentioned prior. So it take us to some of the emerging data security trends that we have now, 2025, 2026, which is, I think, one of the last slides, Steve, Scott. So agentic data security. So that's what I was telling about invoking memory, and some of these agents are making decisions. So the exposure surface we have for data is within vector stores, embeddings, API, toolchain connectors, autonomous context, and reasoning data. So it requires memory isolation, tokenized access to provide control and continuous traceability. Um, Among the group, I think, and then this is a conversation that I see in many circles, which is the need to have a human in the loop. Um, n- no technology, it will have the gut feeling and the experience, know-how, and expertise that us professionals have. um, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to make mistakes too, but we shouldn't trust all the way within the technology when it comes to crowd use and all of the data. So that's why Agentic now it's imposing new ways in which we're gonna deal with these emerging data security trends, which I think is on the next slide. There you go. So among the white paper, we saw private enhancing technologies, especially differential privacy, SMPC, and federated learning. Those are the ones that have been used across the board, and they have been proven very effective. The AI native data security posture management as well. And then now I can start seeing a transition to AI data posture intelligence as well. So how we deal with data in a more intelligent manner using the technology to help secure its flow. The quantum resilient cryptography and confidential computing as well. So that's some conversation that I hear in some conferences and talks. And coming back to what we discussed already, dynamic governance and ethical AI and data lineage transparency. So we can only protect what we know. If we don't know when it comes to shadow AI, it will truly be something that it will pose some risks for us. And that bring us to the close of our presentation tonight. I think I'll give back to Scott.
Well, thanks, Emmanuel. I think that as you pointed out, quantum cryptography is also having a big impact, certainly on the data side. But as we get to a point where quantum computers are able to break certification, break PKI certs, it's going to become a big challenge from a data security perspective. I mean, that's a fundamental piece of the technology we rely on, and that's going to create some real challenges for us. Um,
Absolutely. And I guess that's why we need to start introducing those, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we can start looking at those while still those quantum computers are still kind of on the, one could say, not broadly available. As soon as the baddies get access to it, then we're going to have a real challenge and a real problem.
That's right.
So I know we've got a lot of things planned for the initiative. I think there's some right now. We've talked about kicking off the 2.0 version for the 2026 version of the Data Best Practices Guide. And that's
Correct.
looking to kind of get started pretty soon.
Correct. Yeah. Just me and you were lining things up
Yep.
to publish to the community, and yeah, I can't wait to see how it will evolve from the previous version. And I
And,
guess another important one that we see on the slide is also the public data collection for us to support the new top 10 that are coming up and the Agentic top 10, whatever we can collect that data to support the community, because all we do here in the project is for the community, it's by the community. So we are coming together, different minds, try to understand how AI behaves, and how we can add value. I think that's the end goal here. How we can come together to add value to the community, and make more organizations more secure, help use the technology towards our advancement.
yeah, and I think there's a lot of things as we talked about that are changing in today's with today's data security. I think when we worked on the first one, I think Agentic was sort of a thing on the radar. We had talked about it, and I think
Yep,
as an overall community, I think even the Agentic team thought it was a bit too early to do a top 10 list, that sort of
yep,
thing. And things like A2A, MCP, other protocols and frameworks just didn't
yep,
exist. So
correct.
now I think there's a great opportunity for our community members, folks. When you're listening to this, if you want to step in and help contribute, we're going to be looking at how to really kind of look at what the new framework needs to be going into 2026. So it's a great opportunity to provide feedback and help us kind of guide this. As this is a community project, we do leverage a lot of the community's resources, feedback, expertise to kind of move this forward. So come on and join the project.
Yeah, and please, we are always open for business. I think the our strength is in our diversity, and how large the group is, and the different perspectives we have within the group. So our Slack channels, it's over there, Team GenAI Data Security Initiative. Please join our channel, and keep a look on to what's coming next. And I use the opportunity to invite you to join us. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. That's really great. Thank you, Emmanuel. Rest of the folks, enjoy the rest of the sessions today. If you're watching this on demand, come join the project, get involved. Thank you all.
Thank you.